it's starting to become busier with training camp. And this week we've got the first full week of NFL preseason. So there are 3 weeks of it now, not 4, because they've got the 17th regular season game. Well, if the season were to start today, Niners head coach Kyle Shanahan says that he would, in fact, be out there doing everything that he normally does. But when he stood in front of the cameras for the first time doing a press conference on Saturday, now this is part of training camp, first time for him, he revealed that he was supposed to do a press conference the week before, but he was thankful that Niners PR didn't announce it and tell the media to get there and be ready, because I guess the day dawned and he felt terrible. His head hurt. He didn't want to stand in front of a camera or the bright lights and do a press conference. So they pushed it to Saturday. So he is still dealing with some of the after effects of the concussion that he suffered in the car accident back on July 14th. And I went and I watched the whole press conference. It's still a little jarring to see him. And I know the Niners press corps has seen him more than once, but it's a little jarring to see him with the bruise on his nose still. And you can tell he is a kinder, gentler Kyle Shanahan, at least for now. He did make a half-hearted joke about how the doctors have told him he can get back. Oops. Talking with my hands. He can get back to everything that he normally does as an NFL head coach. And that includes doing his favorite thing, which is media. And he was being sarcastic. He always makes jokes about how he can't stand doing the media and can't stand talking about injuries and the questions about his quarterback. And so he can get pretty spicy and salty with the media. But what I noticed, in addition to just the physical recovery that he's still going through, especially on his face, and according to a close friend of his, Chris Sims, who is part of the Sims family, the NFL Sims family. I've done shows with Matt Sims on Sirius XM NFL radio. So they're very connected and they've got friends in the industry. Chris has indicated that Kyle nearly lost his eye in that car accident about a month ago. So that is scary and sobering. And I felt like we got a little bit of a more tempered Kyle Shanahan. Not that he wanted to be in front of the cameras and answering questions. And he did a couple times make a reference to, this is one of his favorite lines, like I've already told you, like I said 3 questions ago, or like I just told you last week. So there was a little bit of that, but not a lot. And I did feel as though he was more honest. He was more open. The guard was down a little bit, and you often get the guard up with Kyle Shanahan and many NBA, NFL, NHL head coaches. Not all of them are authentic. A lot of them are careful about what they say, because you make one misstep, you say one wrong word, and it turns into a story of epic proportions with the local media and then can get disseminated nationally. But I felt like we got a softer, maybe, as I say, more tempered, more candid Kyle Shanahan. And even though he has spoken about the accident with a handful of reporters, and those quotes have gone out all over. In fact, believe it or not, as I was searching for some of the details of the accident, just to make sure that I got it right, I came across a link to an article in People magazine. How many people out there who read, or whether it's the magazine or whether it's the online version of People, actually know who Kyle Shanahan is? Probably not as many, but this accident has made news for a variety of reasons. One, because initially the police report actually pointed the blame at the other driver, who was a 21-year-old female in an SUV. And Kyle did come out and correct that and indicate that he was to blame for the accident. So that made headlines, but also the fact that he was in a Tesla self-driving car, and that he thought that the auto drive or the autopilot was engaged, although he's not very sure now. But just thinking about Tesla and the national headlines and Elon Musk, and also the technology behind self-driving cars and autopilot, and how there have been some really high-profile accidents. So it's going to get picked up by the news media and by public interest forums or pop culture forums, because this is a high profile driver and one who has got a platform that reaches millions of people talking about his Tesla. So even though Kyle has made headlines with his quotes, he was sort of willing. I don't think he wanted to rehash the whole thing, but he was sort of willing to talk about the accident again. And one reporter asked him, so I thought this was a very insightful question. One reporter asked him, "Are you mad at yourself for this accident and the fact that it was your fault?"
Yeah, I mean, anytime you cause an accident that can be avoided, you'd feel pretty stupid. I mean, especially when you have a chance to hurt someone else. And so, like, I mean, I think you get mad when you get a ticket at yourself. So it was kind of the same. Things that, I think everyone's done to a degree what I've done. But, dropping a phone and falling all the way to my back seat to where I have to fully take my eyes off the road. It's something that I normally wouldn't do. I've had autopilot for 9 years, so I'm pretty comfortable with it. And, who knows what happened when I turned around, whether it malfunctioned or whether I knocked it off. That's something I don't know yet. But regardless, it is always your fault, whether you're an autopilot or not. You can't take your eyes off the road. It's a partnership driving. You don't just turn it over to a computer. And it's a good lesson, no matter how comfortable I am with that I believe someday could save my life or someone else's, or it's really helped me have perspective on that stuff.
If you have a Tesla that has autopilot or another type of vehicle in which you can gauge the autopilot, I would love to hear from you. I'm not comfortable with it. As I mentioned on the Monday show, I'm a control freak when it comes to driving. After years of driving in New York City, after years of dealing with just crazy maniacal drivers and also very distracted drivers, I'm not even a good passenger when my husband is driving, and I trust him fully. Although it does make him sometimes feel like I don't. And so I try really hard, but I'm not great at riding in the passenger seat because I'm much tenser. I would never, at least at this point in my life, be able to engage autopilot and just let it go. I understand actually hearing Kyle. I think I understand why he would do it. And he says he was only going 20 miles per hour and that it's not like they were speeding along, because you can allow the car to keep you at a speed that meets the speed limit, and you're not distracted yourself. As an NFL coach, time is money, and the amount of time and energy that these guys spend on their craft. He's talked about hours of watching film, and with the concussion, having to take a break, even now in team meetings when they're going through film and scout. He's taking a break every now and then. It's funny because Cliff Kingsbury, who was coaching the Arizona Cardinals at the time, talked about giving his team social media breaks, phone breaks, so that in the middle of a team meeting, they could have 15 minutes to check their streams or their streaks or whatever else. And so here's Kyle, who says, now I've given my guys a phone break, but mostly it's because I need a break focusing. So he is saying that he still has some headaches and some sensitivity with the concussion. He also indicated that it's his first concussion. And I thought another really insightful question was to ask him, because I wondered this too. Had I been in the press conference, this would have been my question as well. How much do you feel like you can relate with your players now who are dealing with concussions that come via playing the game of football?
I've been told so much by these guys, don't compare sports concussion to an accident like this, and I'm starting to realize that now. But just little things like when they label things like whether it's severe or mild, and like you hear someone has a mild one, I'm like, oh, all right, well, that might be one game, but usually that's two. And then you kind of learn those are just words. Each one's a little bit different, and I definitely can relate to how scary it is when you don't know if you will feel right again. But it's definitely made me more educated on it. Usually I just listen and like, tell me when, okay, and I move on. But I understand it a lot better and what guys got to go through and the protocol to get back, which there's not a protocol for me on paper, but it's really cool to be in a building that kind of majors in that type of a profession that knows what to do with those things. So all the people that I need help from, it was already built in here, and they got a lot of experience with it, and it's been really good for me.
So Kyle Shanahan talking about the discussions he's had with his players, and this comes from his Saturday press conference. But also on Saturday, what did we find out? During the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, we found out that Roger Craig has been diagnosed with a form of dementia, and that even though he does not blame football, it's very likely connected to the number of either undiagnosed or untreated concussions and head injuries he had as a very active running back in the 80s and 90s, when the major method of treatment was to tell guys to shake it off, shake their head, get some smelling salts, and get back out there on the field, even if they couldn't remember the play before, even if they didn't know what was going on, they got knocked out. It was definitely the dirty little secret about playing football, and it's now been exposed by the light. And so it is significant that Kyle Shanahan, as an NFL head coach dealing with his first concussion, can now identify and relate with his players. And I dare say, and I'm not accusing Kyle of this, so please don't take this as some insight about Kyle Shanahan and who he is, but just in general, the game of football, really every game. You can get concussions in hockey, of course. I'm sure they're just as common. Basketball with an elbow to the head. You can certainly experience them in baseball too. I had a friend whose daughter got hit. Now, this was while she was wearing a helmet. Got hit with the bat of a teammate who was warming up for her plate appearance. And that concussion cost his daughter years of feeling okay. And she wasn't ever able to go back to playing softball again. So think about soccer or UFC. Concussions are not unique to football. But using the NFL as an example, it is such a competitive sport. The margin of between winning and losing is so slim. The margin of the haves and the have-nots, it gets tighter and tighter every year because a team can go from worst to first in the span of just one season or a few months. It's so competitive, and there's so much money in it. I can imagine there are coaches, trainers, players, not fingering anyone specifically, but there are some, especially if it's a player who is worried about losing a job, worried about losing snaps. Maybe he just played himself into the starting lineup, or he's trying to earn a starting job, and he's worried that if I have a concussion and I'm taken out and I have to be in protocol for a certain amount of time, I'm worried that I'm going to lose my job. They're not going to put me back in there because I'm not reliable, or they're going to brand me as injury prone. There are probably coaches who are tempted. Again, I hope with all of the science and the technology, the revelations that we now know about the danger of compounded concussions and head injuries and what that can do to a human later in his or her life, that they are less tempted, that they care more about their athletes and their players as people, big picture, not just about how this guy or this gal can help me win. I hope that coaches and trainers are less tempted now, but we certainly know that there had to be times in the past where a coach, not understanding what it feels like to be concussed, like Kyle Shanahan now experiences, like he just said on Saturday, I really understand now the fear that I might never be right again, that I might never be able to shake off these cobwebs, that I might perpetually be dealing with headaches or a sensitivity to light. Some concussions can take forever. And while he did indicate at one point in his press conference that this wasn't branded a serious concussion, he can certainly identify and relate now to his players. And I hope is even more cognizant of how damaging it can be to a player to get back on the field too quickly. For him to get back into the film room. He even said when he was first on the practice field that he couldn't handle AC/DC, that it was too much pounding and it made his head hurt, that he needed something a little softer. And I think he mentioned some pop, like softer pop music. And so I'm glad he's healing, but I wonder how valuable he'll say this experience was down the road. As mad as he is at himself, as frustrated that he had the accident, he actually made a comment too that the mustache may have saved his face or saved his life. And I don't exactly know what he means, but that he's keeping the mustache around a little longer. He usually shaves it off before they get to training camp. But he said, because I may be part privy to it and part, I'm kind of partly grateful to this mustache. No one followed up on that. I would have followed up on that too. Anyway, I'm glad he's doing okay. I'm glad he's healing. I'm thankful that this is just his first concussion. But I am also hoping that whether it's him personally or other coaches who speak to him, who talk to him, that they really understand how serious these head injuries can be. And then couple that with what Roger Craig said at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Saturday, and calling the NFL into the spotlight to be ever more responsible, putting the onus back on the NFL. And I hope Kyle Shanahan is the next loud voice that joins the chorus of calling for responsibility and accountability to protect players, not just from head injuries, but should they occur, to protect them from being back out there on the field or putting them in dangerous situations before they are ready. It is their choice to play football. No one's making them, but when you have a head injury, you're not always thinking straight. You're not always keeping your priorities in order. One more thing too, Kyle said, this is actually kind of funny. I have no idea how old his wife is. I didn't look it up. I don't know if she's going through menopause, but he actually said, my apologies. I've told my wife, because I'm more emotional and because I've got like a roller coaster of emotions, that it feels like I'm in menopause. Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to be able to identify with that personally, regardless of how he feels with his emotions. No one seemed to react to that, but I did think it was kind of funny too. I don't care how many concussions you've had. I don't think that that's something that you can relate to.